So as we go live here, Jessica, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us for Women of Influence 2020. It's been a pleasure to do all these interviews, and I'm so thankful to have you join us here today.
Thank you, Cameron. It's great to be with you today.
No problem. Just before we get into the first question, I want to make sure we have this down pat. You're the Senior Vice President of Woodbine, and you've been in horse racing for more than 2 decades?
Yes, that's true. More than 2 decades. Yes.
With all of that on your resume, how or when did you know you were in the right career?
Well, that's a great question. When I finished university, I had grown up in the horse racing industry. My parents were breeders, thoroughbred breeders in a town outside of London, Ontario, in southwestern Ontario, called St. Thomas. So I'd grown up in racing and I'd always loved horses. At the time that I was in university, I didn't expect that I would go into racing at that time. But when I graduated in the mid-90s, there was a recession. And I was exploring opportunities, and I found a job opening at Woodbine Racetrack. And I took the job, and that's how my career started. So it's funny how you can completely fall into something. In university, I had my heart set on becoming a television producer. And I was interested in journalism and producing behind the scenes. And ironically, my career in racing took me to a job in television, because at one point I did work in TV related to racing.
I was going to say, part of Woodbine, you are definitely a part of the television aspect, so that's interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned St. Thomas, because the NBC company, our company that sort of owns the myFM brand, we have a myFM station in St. Thomas.
Yes.
So we know exactly where St. Thomas is. I believe it's the home of Joe Thornton, is it not?
It is. We're very proud of Joe, and his older brother was a classmate of mine growing up. And yeah, the town is very, very proud of Joe, and it's on the sign when you drive into St. Thomas, home of Joe Thornton.
Well, I'd imagine a lot of people are proud of you. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
Wow. That's a challenge. I would say that I'm very proud of being able to build a career over a number of years and work in both Canada and the United States in horse racing, and have been able to make lots of great relationships and contribute and have an impact where I could over the years. And at the same time, I was lucky enough to meet the right person and have 2 boys and raise a family while I was going through the earlier stages of my career. And now I'm raising 2 teenage boys, and we're having a lot of fun with the lockdown and the quarantine and all the rest. So I think it's difficult to point to one thing as an accomplishment, Cameron, but I think the sum of being able to build a career and have a family, and I would say that I'm proud of that.
That's nice. I like to hear that. Jessica, a lot of people, when it comes to their professional work, they tend to have people that they look up to, whether it's directly or indirectly. Who would you say has been your mentor in your career?
I've been really lucky. So the interesting thing is that I have always, I've never had a female boss. I've always worked for men in my career, and I will say that every single one that I've worked for have been extremely supportive and have been very focused on making sure that women are being put into the right roles. And that's just your luck, because if you go back 25 years when I began working, there was much less focus on that than there is today. So early on in my career, my first boss, his name was Andrew McGilvery, and he was very, very progressive. And since that time, I've worked with fantastic people. So I've had an opportunity to learn from each of them, as you do. And otherwise, I have my mother and my aunt, who have been mentors to me throughout my life. my mother's sister was very involved in working at the federal and provincial government levels, and she's been a mentor to me as well.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned that you've never had a female boss, because now I'm sure you're the boss of a lot of women. And a part of Women of Influence is to sort of spotlight and give young women someone to look up to. Would you say you have any advice for young women?
Certainly, I do have a lot of women that work for me today, and a lot of us have been focused, I think, during our careers, that as you move along, it's important to reach down and pull up from behind you and make sure that women are given opportunities. What I find mostly when speaking with women that are early on in their careers, and I was this way as well, women have a difficult time speaking up, and they often have the right idea at the right time, but they may not jump out and add it to the conversation, and that takes some bravery. And I think that there are a lot of women that have to learn that. And I think, so what I would say is that when you have that great idea in the discussion, that you're sitting at a table or on a Zoom call, which is what we're doing today, throw your idea out and add it to the conversation, and feel brave in order to do so, and just second guess yourself. That would be my advice.
All right, fantastic. Jessica, July has just passed us by. We're looking into August. What is coming up for Woodbine?
Yes, it's amazing to feel like time is flying by. We've had to reschedule most of our world-class events this year due to COVID-19. We're so fortunate that we were approved to return to racing in phase 1 of the Ontario government's reopening plan. So we have been racing since June 6th without spectators. We are hopeful that we can add spectators in a contained way over the summer months, and we've rescheduled all of our big events. So in Milton, at Woodbine Mohawk Park, our largest event every year is the $1 million Pepsi North America Cup. Normally we would have raced that in June, but we've rescheduled it to August 29th. So that's coming up at the end of the summer. So we're making plans for that today. We also have another event in September called the Mohawk Million, which is a new event for us coming up on September 26th. And speaking of events in September, the most famous race in Canada, the Queen's Plate, which has been run for 161 years. It's the longest continuously run stakes race in North America, longer and older than the Kentucky Derby even. That's been rescheduled for September 12th. So we're going to be looking forward to that at Woodbine in Toronto. So lots of big racing events coming up for August, September, and October at both of our racetracks.
It's nice to know you're keeping busy during the summer, even with COVID-19 happening.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely. Horse people never sleep. They have to care for their horses, and they go 7 days a week. And we have racing 5 nights a week as well. So it's a very busy spot, and we're just so grateful that we can operate under these conditions because of our television and our online. We're able to continue operations. So very lucky that way.
Well, fantastic. Now, this is one of 9 interviews that we're doing for Women of Influence 2020. If you would like to see the other 8 interviews that are happening, they're at miltonnow.ca, as well as our Facebook page, 101.3 myFM. Jessica, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us.
Great, Cameron. Thank you. And I hope the rest of your summer goes well. Thank you for having me on.
I hope so too. You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.